Finally, a full month of USPORTS swimming has gone by. So welcome back, everyone, to the actual first episode of the Splash Recap podcast, brought to you by Swim Nerd Canada, makers of Canada's #1 digital pace clock. The Swim Nerd pace clock comes in both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth options, making it the smartest clock on the market and a must-have for all leading swim programs. Please visit swimnerdcanada.com for more. Today, I am joined by
Kelton. Happy to be back.
All right, now let's get started. So, the first swim meet that we were actually going to cover, even though it didn't happen in October, it happened in September, was the MAC versus Western meet in the OUA. So from that meet, my biggest takeaways were, one, MAC won the whole meet. Their men won and their women won, which is pretty incredible, considering that Western's been the #2 team in the OUA conference for the last 2 years now. Last 2 years, they've been the #1 team. So MAC beating them, great start to the season. Of course, also hosted by MAC. Always fun to get a win in your home pool. Now, there was a couple top events of the meet. Kelton, what were your top events?
I had, on the men's side, Hayden Yang, who won the 50 breast, 100 breast, second in the 100 IM, and fourth in the 50 backstroke. Definitely a great sprinter there, and I'm excited to see what he can do at divisionals and OUAs. On the women's side, Michelle Wang, she won her 4 events, which was very impressive to do on your first meet.
And those are both MAC swimmers. MAC really carried this meet. Again, their women and men both almost got 1,000 points, while Western was down in the 500s, which is a pretty crazy start to the season for McMaster. All right, now into October. We're going to stick to the OUA for now. The first meet was that Waterloo Tri-Meet. So, main takeaways for the Waterloo Tri-Meet for me, Toronto won it all. Of course they did. They're the defending national champions, defending OUA champions. Of course their men and women came away with the win. But Waterloo's men were relatively close to Toronto. Not super close, but relatively close. So it just shows how strong of a men's team Waterloo appears to have this season. And on the flip side, Waterloo's women were able to defeat Guelph at their home pool. Now Guelph is traditionally a very strong women's team. So to see Waterloo beat Guelph, Waterloo's women beat Guelph at the start of the season, looks really good for that team.
Yeah, I mean, I'd 100% agree. Obviously, Toronto was going to win that meet. They're one of the best teams in Canada. But it's exciting to see the Waterloo men being able to get close to them. And it'll be an exciting battle at divs between Mac and Waterloo to see who gets to stay up.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Kelton. Really glad, because that battle is going to be, I think, really good. Because no one wants to fall down from Division 1 to Division 2. So for those that don't know, the loser of Division 1 in combined score men and women's goes down to Division 2, and the winner of Division 2 combined scores men and women go up to Division 1. So with McMaster so strong this year, Waterloo and Western and MAC are going to be fighting to see who goes down, because Toronto's not going down. Let's be honest. Toronto's going to stay up in Division 1. It's which of those three are going to go down, because they're all looking pretty good this year. Waterloo maybe is looking maybe a little bit the weakest, but we haven't seen Waterloo versus Western yet, so it's tough to say right now. Tough to say. Okay, next up we have the Carleton Tri-Meet, hosted by the Carleton Ravens up in Ottawa. My main team takeaways, it was all Laurier. Laurier's men won the meet with a pretty healthy margin. And then Laurier's women, huge improvement from that team. Last year at OUAs and divisionals, Queen's women were able to best the Hawks. But at this meet, which was basically a one-on-one, it was a kind of a triple duel meet, so it's 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1. In that format, Laurier's women, in like a one-on-one matchup, were able to come out on top, which is really exciting to see. And we'll see if, the Hawks can keep that momentum up, if they can stay strong against that tough competition that Queens is going to bring. Then Carleton and Queens, those two head-to-head. So relatively even was the main thing. Relatively even. The combined score was only a 1-point difference. So really, really matched up teams. Queens women, a little bit stronger than Carleton's. Carleton's men, a little bit stronger than Queens. So those two are going to have a really great battle this year, and it'll be really exciting to see who comes out on top at divisionals. Kelton, what were your top swims of the meet, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it makes sense to see the Carleton men doing so well when they have an athlete like Finn Tuck. They have a few good men, but Finn Tuck is outstanding, and it seems like every year he just keeps improving. Yeah, so Finn Tuck, he had 2 wins and 1 second. He won the 400 free and the 100 IM, and then came second 50 fly to Kent Goney. And on the women's side, when you you talked about the Queens women doing very well. Kimberly Song, their U Sport qualifier, came away with 3 wins. She won every event she swam, the 100 IM, 50 breast, and a relay.
Yeah, 2 great athletes coming out on from Carleton and Queens. And I looked at Laurier too, but at this specific meet, at the Carleton Tri meet, Fintuck had more wins than any of the Laurier guys, and I think had a more impressive performance. And same with Kimberly Song, had an extremely impressive performance compared to the other women at the meet. So I'm really glad you highlighted them, Kelton. All right, next up, short and sweet, Guelph Sprint Meet. So this meet used to be huge, but this year there's only 2 teams. It was just basically a one-on-one battle between Guelph and Brock. The takeaways here, Brock's men's team is strong, especially when compared to Guelph. Now, Guelph are not weak. They're not pushovers. They're not going to come last at divisionals or at OUAs. But Brock's men's team is looking really, really good, at least in a one-on-one battle. On the women's side, it's also really impressive to see Brock's women beating Guelph's in that one-on-one battle. Again, it's not a traditional meet. It's kind of just sprints. So that probably won't translate to a lot of other meets. It'll be a lot closer. Guelph could even maybe get the win at the bigger meets like divisionals or OUAs, but for now, Brock's women are looking very, very strong. Any thoughts, Kelton?
Yeah, I'd 100% agree. It is exciting to see the OUA dynamic kind of changing a bit. Guelph's always been really up there, and I'm not saying they're not, but seeing like Laurier, seeing Brock as we see in this meet, starting to move up, even York is starting to move up too. It is exciting to see, and I think there'll be a good battle in the Division 2, and it's exciting to see what'll happen at the end of November.
All right, Kelton. Okay, next, the Badger Invitational. So this meet, let's be honest here. It was all McMaster. All McMaster. McMaster is currently undefeated. They might even be able to challenge for second in the OUA. I know that's a bit much, but we mentioned it earlier. They beat Western 1-on-1. They really just wiped everyone else at the Badger Invitational. What could they do at the OUA level? It'll be really, really fun to see. Now, they won the combined score, they won the men, and they won the women. Now let's talk about everybody else. In combined score, Laurier actually came second overall. Now, the exciting thing about that is everyone else at that meet is in Division 2. So could Laurier push for divisional title? Could they, get close? We'll see. Now, before everyone from Brock messages me, Brock's not going to let Laurier take that title without a strong fight. Brock's men are not that far behind Laurier's, and Brock's women did beat Laurier at this meet, and they will probably beat Laurier at divs. So it's going to be a strong divisional field. It's going to be a really tight battle between Brock and Laurier. I'm just saying that right now, Laurier is looking good. Now, the other thing that I actually want to talk about was York University. So York University got 95 points. They came 5th on the men's side. Guelph came 4th with 376 points. So was not necessarily close. However, York's been looking stronger and stronger, as Kelton just mentioned. They've been coming up and up, and they had no Eric Ginsberg. So at divisionals, or even at OUAs, will we see York take down a couple teams? Could we see them get 8th this year? 7th? I don't know. It's been really fun to watch this program, watch it grow. They've had so many hurdles that they've had to jump through, and I'm really excited to see where they go. Kelton, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I do think that it'd be cool to see Mac just to keep moving up in the OUAs. From being 4th 2 years ago, 3rd last year, seeing them come 2nd. Who knows? Maybe they might even have a shot at beating Toronto, maybe a decade down the line. I don't really know. Toronto is just a powerhouse. But it was really cool to see Laurier come out just on top of Brock. It was very close, and I think, like you mentioned, it's going to be a close battle at divisionals. But we can't completely sleep on the other teams, right? Like Eric being there, he's going to get 80 points, right? Unless Kent or someone else has something to say about that. He's probably going to win all 4 events, and that's going to be huge for York. But also Guelph. Guelph has a good team. You can't sleep on them. And Queens has some good swimmers, and so does Carleton. Carleton has some fantastic swimmers as well. So yeah, seeing this meet, seeing Laurier coming out second ahead of Brock was cool. But Brock's going to be there at divisionals, that's for sure. And that's the main reason we keep talking about this, is that this is the meet to look forward to in OUA swimming. For like athletes, there were a few women and a few men that they're able to get their U Sport times again. They already had them, like I mentioned. Tatum O'Connor from Brock, made in the 50 back. This early in the year, that's definitely very impressive. Alana Casasanta got the 100 backstroke. Michelle Wang got the 50 fly. All three of them already had U Sports. And then Kent from Laurier, Kent Gonia-Vila. 29.53 in the 100 freestyle. That's unbelievable. I'm kidding. There was a 49.53, but still, that's great. And made in the 50 breast and was just off in the 100 backstroke. This guy has become very diverse in what he can swim, and he seems to just be good at everything.
Yeah, it was such a fun meet. It was such a crazy meet. Just seeing so many fast times come out, people hitting the U Sports qualifying times this early in the season was incredible. I also really liked how you mentioned every team in Division 2 looks really strong. They all seem to be moving up, at least in like the amount of points that they can get and the amount that they can kind of push on the other strong teams. But it'll be really interesting to see them, all the Division 2 teams together. Because at the Badger Invitational, again, Mac was there. They took most of the points. Without one really, really strong team, how do all these other teams mesh together? We haven't seen that yet this year, other than at the Carleton Tri-Meet. So, again, a lot to look forward to in the OUA. Now, the last meet that we have to talk about in the OUA was the Battle of Waterloo, which was the annual Laurier versus Waterloo battle. Now, the main takeaway was Laurier, of course, at that meet did not bring a full team. They did not bring 18 men, 18 women. But regardless, Laurier and Waterloo are not at parity yet. Laurier's made some really good strides. They're not quite there yet to where those two can have an actual close battle. But they're trying to get there. So it's still Waterloo all the way. And we'll see how Waterloo does in these future meets.
Yeah, UW looked great at the meets. They beat us in almost every race. They were the better team at the meet, that's for sure.
All right, on to the RSEC. So, for Coop 1, McGill is on top. McGill is ruling that conference. Ottawa looks really, really strong. Laval and Montreal are very, very close. Sherbrooke and the Trois-Rivières Patriots look like much better. They look a lot stronger than they did last year, the last couple of years. They are definitely making some strides to try to be competitive in the RSEC conference. One thing that I really liked, that I really like in general about the RSEC, is they actually do a whole section on the RSEC website about the number one performances, or the top performances, based on FINA points. So, Kelton, take it away.
On the women's side, from McGill, obviously, seeing as they're the top, of course they have the top female athlete. Amelia Master-Mateo won a 27.15 in the 50 fly. That is a fantastic swim.
Yeah, in October. That's fast. On the men's side, it was McGill's Lokic Cavil Fortin who had the top FINA points in the 200 IM, going a 2:02.44. Again, really fast for some October swimming. All right, the second meet in the RSEC was the Ottawa Tri-Meet. Now, two of the teams are OUA teams. Ottawa's an RSEC team, but Ottawa hosted it, which is why I put it with the RSEC. Long story short, it was all Ottawa. Ottawa ran that meet from start to finish. They won a good chunk of the events, came out with the overall score, the combined score, men's score, women's score. It was all Ottawa. Ottawa is looking incredibly strong this year. Incredibly strong. Waterloo also looking really good to be right behind them, not that far behind. So it's going to be a good year between those two. Carleton, at this point, kind of like Laurier and Waterloo, Carleton cannot really compete with these two big teams yet. They're giving it their all. They're an up-and-coming program, in my opinion. But right now, Waterloo and Ottawa just kind of sweep the floor with them. Kelton, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Ottawa is the better team. Waterloo was close behind. Carleton like you mentioned with Laurier and like some of the other Division 2 teams, there's a bit more work to do to catch up to these teams. Maybe that's just better recruiting. Maybe they just don't have the facilities for them. I don't really know. But yeah, it was a good meet. And on the women's side, from Waterloo, Hannah Gallagher, she won both fly events in some impressive times too. Was a 27.82 in the 50 fly and a 102.82 in the 100 fly. She is a dominant woman in the fly events. And on the men's side, Marty,
we have Alim Kujai, who also had 2 wins. He also had 2 second-place finishes. One of his wins was in a relay, but his individual win was the 50 fly, where he went 24.41, which is pretty darn fast for October swimming. All right, on to Coop 2. So, once again, I sound like a broken record. It was all McGill. It was just all McGill. McGill came out with all the wins. Not all the wins, but they came out with the men's win, women win, and combined score win. So again, it was all McGill. Ottawa, again, looking very, very strong. This also just cemented how close Montreal and Laval are. Montreal's women were able to get the slight edge over Laval in Coupe 2, but Laval's men were able to get a pretty decent edge over Montreal's men. So we're going to keep seeing those teams, I think, fighting, battling for that third spot position. We're going to see what they'll do. They did roughly the same thing last year, where they were just neck and neck, battling it out, trying to get third spots against each other. So here are the top performers in those FINA points. Joaquin Fedangs. So he had the top points with a 149.34 in the 200 meter freestyle, which is crazy fast going under 150 this early in the season.
And from the women's side, from Laval, it was Raphael Tremblay won a 202.75 in the 200 freestyle. That's a fantastic swim for the 200 free right now.
She was also Uniswim Can's top recruit of the year from RASQ. Very impressive. So seeing her already do what was expected is pretty incredible to see. Okay, over to the AUS. They had 1 meet in the month of October. Yes, I know when this is coming out, Jack Schultz will be done, but we're only going to talk about Ambi Leger today. So, a lot of it was a repeat from last year and what we saw last year in the AUS. It was all Dow. Dow won the combined scores, Dow won the men's scores, women's score, while Acadia was kind of in this middle spot. Kind of close to threatening Dow, but not that close, but pretty far above Mount Allison and the University of New Brunswick. Those two, Mount Allison and the University of New Brunswick, are again really close together. They're really competitive with each other, which is good to see. Any thoughts, Kelton?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at that point in the season to see Dow win both the men and the women. Acadia was definitely close, and maybe we'll see down the line if they do win against Dow. Foreshadowing. And then for like the points and the best athletes, Emily Schofield won 5 events. It's very impressive. The 200 back, 400 IM, 400 free, and the 100 backstroke, and a relay as well. It's very impressive. And on the men's side, Logan Sparks. He came with 4 wins in 2 seconds. He won the 100 free, 400 free, and 200 IM.
And those two both swim for Dalhousie.
And that's no shocker, in my opinion.
Yeah, Dow has really ran that conference for the last couple of years now, with the one Acadia upset in the last just a couple of years ago. I know Acadia really wants that again. I am actually really excited to see those two at USPORTS, because at USPORTS, when you get all the big teams in there, they're really close together. Acadia's top dogs are really similar to Dow's top dogs, and I really like the battle that they have at USPORTS. Of course, also all their meets in the AUS, but I really like to see them at USPORTS. So it'll be fun to see them this March in Toronto. And on to the Canada West. So yes, there were a couple meets that different teams attended, different club meets, but we're going to focus on the one meet where we had a couple teams all together, which was the Dino Invitational. So for the most part, I hate to say it, it was kind of same old, same old. In a good way, though. UBC's women won the meet. Calgary's men won the meet. Lethbridge, kind of like Laurier or Carleton in the OUA, cannot quite compete with UBC and Calgary. UBC and Calgary are two of the top teams in the country. Lethbridge is still a really good team. They have a good amount of USports qualifiers. More than Laurier, more than Carleton, but again, they can't quite compete with arguably two of the best teams in the entire country. So there were two swimmers after this meet were designated as the Canada West Swimmer of the Week, and they were...
On the women's side, no surprise, Kayla Sanchez. I'm sure you all know who she is. She had 5 wins, including a 59.92 in the 100 free, a 4.13 in the 400 meter freestyle as well. And on the men's side, another no surprise, another national team member, Stephen Calkins, also coming with 5 wins and 1 silver at this meet. An outstanding performance from both of these athletes.
All right, and that is our month of October and September summarized for you in the Splash Recap podcast. We would like to thank Swim Nerd Canada and their digital and programmable pace clocks for sponsoring our show. Visit swimnerdcanada.com to learn how to get your program a Swim Nerd digital pace clock. Thank you everyone for listening. Have a good one. Goodbye.